You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. What you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
That's President Donald Trump speaking over Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy Friday at the Oval Office. And it's obviously rippling across the geopolitical space. And even here in Illinois, you've got some elected officials sounding off on it. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Happy Monday. I'm Greg Bishop. You can like, subscribe, and catch this show anytime. We go live, 8 o'clock Central, so you can stay part of the conversation that way. But let's get into this, because clearly it was a pretty contentious moment in the Oval Office. And this happened after about 45 minutes of the two sitting down with not just Trump and Zelenskyy, but you had Vice President J.D. Vance there, you had Marco Rubio there, the U.S. Secretary of State, you had other cabinet officials there, and a ton of media. And as we've seen in the Trump administration, the second non-consecutive term, he's been in front of the cameras at least 2 or 3 times a day, if not more, taking questions from members of the media. And this was no exception. They had the cameras running. They were talking about possibly getting a mineral deal together to bring about a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And Trump, as he does, he seems to kind of say this is what's going to happen without getting the on the record approval from the person that it's going to be happening to. I think that's a negotiation tactic and a pressure tactic. Obviously, Trump prides himself in being a negotiator. So that kind of started out that way, right? Trump comes out and says, hey, we're going to sign this deal. It's going to be a big, beautiful deal. We're going to have peace between Russia and Ukraine. And then Volodymyr Zelenskyy starts talking about security concerns before there's even peace, meaning having the U.S. step up and provide air support or weaponry or more money. But Trump and the administration are looking to get some kind of assurance that U.S. tax dollars not just going to Ukraine without any strings attached. So they want some kind of mineral rights. Listen, this is Illinois in Focus, right? We get down and talk about the granular level of state legislation. We're not in any way, talking about geopolitics, and we're not going to talk about the strategies here. But I think it is important that we do review at least what was said and what some of the reactions from Illinois politicos are. So let's go ahead and hear some of these highlights from the roughly 2 minutes that really has rocked the world in as far as what happened in the Oval Office.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office.
All right, let's rewind this, get it queued up, and go.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful
to
come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You
God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war,
you're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
But right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm
with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what do you
You're
think
gambling
about?
with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
It's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you.
your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
I'm very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States
what
of
are you speaking
America
about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
So a lot of this obviously was at the tail end of this 45-minute open press type of event with the president talking with the Ukrainian president, and right before that clip started, you actually had Zelenskyy point to the vice president and say, "JD, what's this talk of diplomacy you speak?" And that really started this off with the vice president saying that Zelenskyy was being disrespectful. But Trump later on talked about how to get both sides to the table, you can't say that the other side's pure evil, and that's not going to bring about a peace accord of sorts. So that's kind of, I guess, the strategy that Trump is trying to deploy, is not to cater to Russia's Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine, but to be that mediator in between. But that obviously that blow up caused all kinds of reaction. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, he had a march that he was part of, and here's what he had to say on the streets. Just a really brief clip from his social media accounts here. Here's Senator Dick Durbin.
Thousands of people showed up in Chicago to protest for Ukraine and against Trump's decision to humiliate Zelenskyy. The message is clear. The American people stand behind the Ukrainians who are fighting for our values.
So the Ukrainians are fighting for American values, Durbin says. So he took part in a march in Chicago. You have Governor J.B. Pritzker with this message that he sent out. President Trump's simpering fealty to Vladimir Putin and Russia is embarrassing and dangerous. Illinois stands with Ukraine, and so should the White House. But clearly, when you have this type of spat, and when you have the Ukrainian president wanting the Trump administration to speak ill of Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, is the U.S. going to take a step back? I mean, it was hinted at during the Oval Office spat, and even Zelenskyy being kicked out of the Oval Office and out of the White House, according to reports. Where this goes from here, not too sure, but clearly a lot of political haymaking being made because of the back and forth there. But it's not just that back and forth. You've got the issue of federal funding as well, and Medicaid. Governor Pritzker and a whole bunch of the Democrat delegation from Illinois, they held a news conference Friday where you had people like Durbin talk about the threats they see of the Trump administration going after waste, fraud, and abuse, even in Medicaid or Social Security, for instance.
Get down to the bottom line of why Trump is doing this. It's to generate a tax break for the wealthiest people in this country, just like he did in his first term. History tells us he incurred more national debt in 4 years than any president in the history of the United States, and he's setting out to do it all over again. Why? He wants to give a tax break that is pointing at the richest people in the United States.
So we're going to hear a lot more about that, and that seems to be what the Democrats are hitting on. They had all kinds of people there. You had Robin Kelly also speak.
They did not vote with their constituents in mind, but instead, as you've heard, they voted for a $4.5 trillion tax cut for their wealthy friends. But the truth is that cuts to Medicaid will hurt everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or someone who didn't vote, or where you live.
Again, whether or not those cuts happen has yet to be truly materialized. You still got the U.S. Senate dealing with the House. You had Rajna Krishnamurthy there as well. You had Chuy Garcia. You had Lauren Underwood. You had Delia Ramirez. A whole host of people. Even State Senator Omar Akin Keno there as well. But Governor Pritzker, he was asked about what's going on here and why this full court press of Democrats who aren't in power in Congress. Yes, Democrats dominate Illinois politics, but nationwide politics, they don't control the House, they don't control the Senate, they don't control the White House. So they're seeming to try to get this message out, but is it going to actually work? What's Pritzker's main modus operandi here?
The Avengers. This is a team of people who are in Congress. Yeah, they're trying to convince their colleagues, the Republicans who voted against the interests of the people of Illinois, to vote the other way, because those people who voted against the interests of Illinois also voted against their interests in their state. And they're going to have to explain it. And some of you have seen the videos of town hall meetings where people in Republican districts, Republicans, have shown up to tell their congressperson, hell no, you're getting it wrong. And so we hope that people will hear us, speak up, speak out, and get the job done.
Is that actually going to take place? Or are the efforts from DOJ in the Trump administration to find waste, fraud, and abuse going to actually free up more funding to go where it needs to go? We're just a month and a half into the Trump administration here, but clearly there's going to be a lot more politicking on all of this. Rewinding back to last week in the Illinois House, you had State Representative Adam Niemer get back up there and push against what some of the rhetoric is of the Trump administration wanting to cut Social Security, to cut Medicaid, to cut Medicare, and put Granny out on the streets.
Hi, reporter. Can you guarantee Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security will not be touched? President Trump, I have said many times that you shouldn't even ask me that question. He said no. But when we have a line item in here, things to talk about line item budgets, and you're $2.2 billion, $2.2 billion, you're 286% higher on your cost estimates for illegal immigrant health care.
So obviously, each side's going to get their points in, and we'll do what we can to give you everything so you can make up your own determination on how this plays out. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Of course, the Ukrainian situation is very geopolitical, but you've also got the issue of Medicaid and Medicare funding, dollars that come back to the state of Illinois, how those going to be impacted by efforts to find waste, fraud, and abuse. We shall see. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily.